here on the Breakfast Club, and we're joined by the mayor of Ashland, Steve Gilmore. And first of all, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
How's things been going? Because we haven't seen you in a few weeks.
Well, in the middle of winter, people are all kind of involved in other things.
Yeah.
Staying warm and trying to keep their bills down as low as they can.
Yeah.
And still staying comfortable at home and all. And one of the things I guess you've noticed or not is we haven't had a lot of line breaks this winter, and it's the first in many years. So
Yes.
I think part of that, that's a subject for a whole show when we get back together again. But just touch on that when we get into the times, of course, we have more winter ahead of us.
Yeah.
And usually it's more severe into February, obviously, but we've been ducking it, and I guess climate change, I don't know, I'm not getting into that one either. However, people have been affected by it over the past few years. They understand what I'm talking about. But it's each day when we don't have a major break, it's a big day for us.
Absolutely.
Trust me.
Absolutely.
But we have our ongoing project of replacing antiquated lines. We have a regulated, methodical project in place. We have 4 crews working on that. And if we run into some huge thing, we will contract. But right now we're doing it ourselves. We know where those lines are and where they will probably be because of their age. So we're trying to be as preventive as possible, proactive on this. And as mayor, I feel really good about that. And beyond that, it's business as usual and things going on. And thank goodness you look around the corner and you see all the work on
and they're working on it every day.
The new plaza.
Even in the rain, I see them out there working.
Well, the great thing about it is we the low bidder was actually a local contractor, Debcon, who has done work for the city for the past 30, 40 years and did all the streetscape that we had over the past few years. And they really predominantly have been doing a lot of federal big jobs, on bases and, military bases and all their Dave Osborne, his son runs it now. They know what they're doing. They're good at what they're doing. We have weekly meeting with them and keep track of what's going on. And of course, I always meet with the contractors, with my city engineer, Steve Cole, before they ever begin to explain the importance of the project and what it's going to mean to downtown Ashland, what the citizens expect and all that. Sometimes when you do that, they start getting a little different feeling. And when they're a local contractor who shop and live and work in our area too, that means more to them. So we're real happy to have local labor, on this job.
I want to talk to you about a couple of things. Number one is the money that was awarded for the building, the old Ashland Oil building where we used to be down the road.
Yeah.
That looks like it's going to move along pretty good.
It will. Think the final tally, at least, it can fluctuate a little bit. Hopefully each year it will fluctuate, more. But the state estimated the new revenues in about $6.8 million for us in our TIF, our tax incremental financing deal that we did, and which is going to help the entire downtown.
Wow.
But a big ticket will be bringing that building down, and we have some, just some people who are into that pretty good. Give us some ideas of what it'll be. We have not bid it out yet. We're getting close to doing that, and hopefully we were able to get a floor or two of the new parking garage and get that relief for the downtown. It'll not only be an asset for the hotel to utilize, but the public can utilize it. And then whether or not how quickly we can move on the convention center itself, where it will be adjoined to the hotel, where you can walk right out of the hotel into the convention meeting space and all. We just have to wait and see how the bids come out on tearing the building down. It's going to be a major expense. The truth of it is, and we mentioned on here before, I think that, we have a number of venues near the hotel that I know they're already booking, mid-convention size groups coming in. But, the hotel can take they can do a lot of breakdown meetings in there. They can have a big banquet room. And, you have the old post office that power company's moved in, so that's kind of knocked that one out. But the museum has a full floor that can just seat all kinds of people. And, I mean, there are other possibilities looming where we can start drawing more and more people from outside in to shop and eat and whatever in our community.
Is there a projected date for the building down there to come down? I know you have to bid it out first.
Sure.
But is there a projected date you would like to see for
Well,
that to happen?
obviously, I like to see it before I leave office. So I'm hoping that late summer, early fall. You know the right bidder, and like I said, we recognize it's going to be a big ticket item, but they know what they're doing, and I guess you'd be surprised how quick they can move in and get out. It will be an inconvenience for a few days. There's no question about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe a week or two. I don't know, but they get in there, and of course, obviously, they make more money by getting in, and getting out. You know, it's not like they're dragging this job out to get more money. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, but to take a building down, where it's sitting next to the hotel, that close proximity. I mean, you can put an envelope through there. You know.
Yeah. It's so tight.
But
they know what they're doing.
They knew, and it'll be interesting to watch. I had an older resident here in town told me, said you pay close attention when they're taking that down and digging and all that, because he said there used to be an old church there that parts of it may still be in the ground. Now, as a kid growing up, I remember that block, and right next to the Ashland building was a store that set way back, and you walk way up a sidewalk to it. It's kind of grassy area. It was called Ashland Dry Goods. And as a kid, I know what that meant. Dry goods, what's that? Well, it was all dry goods, towel sheets, pillowcases.
Yeah.
That's all they sold in there. And I can always remember my mom headed to that store a lot. But the whole face of that, as the many years I've lived here, I can picture how it was then, and then obviously with the hotel now, that's a better picture.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about Brady, because that's been in the news.
Oh yeah.
And of course, sort of a strange thing, or a big announcement that they had changed CEOs, and then Mr. Bouchard coming back and saying, "No, wait a minute, I'm still the CEO," and then the board coming back and saying, "Well, you might think you are, but you're not." And boards have a right to do that, and then the legislator saying, you really need to come and talk to us because we've got a stake in this too. And they went yesterday, and really from the news that we got out of that meeting yesterday, pretty positive that what they're saying anyway is we're making this change so we can move faster.
I know that, and you and I have talked about this before, being the mayor, I have business friends who are, really intelligent about the business world and all that, and they've told me, look, this is huge. What they're doing, you just can't put that together overnight. Then a lot of my friends say, hey, it's never going to happen. It isn't going to happen, as has been the tenor among our community, believe it or not. And I have to be positive about it. We need 1,000 construction jobs for a couple years, almost 3 years probably. They're saying it would be a minimum of 28 months to construct that whole thing. So that's good news for a lot of our local labor.
Yeah.
But the other thing is the jobs, whatever jobs are there are more than we have now. And they'll, they always, domino effect, they'll cause more jobs and so forth. So we have to be positive about it. But, in reading the paper this morning, I did have people yesterday at a luncheon meeting. They said, I'll be surprised if they show up down there in Frankfort. Well, they did. And I think where it is now, I think Bouchard still is a member of the board. Mm-hmm. I still think he thinks that he still should be the CEO, but that's gone. My understanding, that's gone.
Yeah.
And the best thing they can do is what they did yesterday: go be transparent with the legislature. And some people on a $1.7 billion job, $15 million of taxpayers' money is extremely important because it's taxpayers' money.
Absolutely.
And the legislature, I'm glad they called them down, and I'm glad they went down and said, look, we want to speed this up worse than you want us to. And I was glad to hear that part, instead of stumbling around saying, well, we got a lot of loose ends. We, not sure where we're at and all these things. I think they're speaking with some authority because they've been a close working board. I don't know all the ins and outs of why this all happened. I have a few rumors to me as mayor that probably are close to the truth but aren't significant. You go with what's out there right now. And I think people need to try to keep the faith and hope it happens because, small town America and potential to get one of the largest aluminum plants in the world and it will be reverberating in a positive manner for years.
Oh.
There'll be things developing around our own town as well as from here to East Park to fuel that.
Yeah.
And it means prosperity to a lot of people. And
Absolutely.
we need to take care of families in Ashland.
Absolutely. We'll take a short break. We'll come right back with more with the mayor of Ashland on the Breakfast Club in just a moment.
McMeans Pharmacy has 2 locations to serve you. Stop by 29th Street and Carter Avenue in Ashland or in their South Point location. Call McMeans Pharmacy in Ashland at 325-8400. In South Point, call 740-377-2677. For all your pharmacy needs, McMeans Pharmacy is the place for you. McMeans Pharmacy in Ashland and South Point. In Ashland, call 325-8400. In South Point, call 377-2677.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. We're joined by the mayor of Ashland, Steve Gilmore. Other big story, since you and I have talked, of course, is the closing of Our Lady of Bellefonte Hospital, which was set to close at the end of September. Now they've moved that up to the end of March. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have already left, and that's one reason why they had to move the closing date up, because everybody had to start looking for jobs. And so, if you don't have any people working for you, you got to close a little earlier. So that's bad news, because there's a lot of jobs going to be lost, but there's always the shining part of that is King's Daughter's hiring a lot of people. They've already hired 260 some.
Yeah. Well, I met with Christy Whitlatch yesterday, the president of King's Daughters, local lady. I'm very proud of her.
It was a nurse first, and
yes,
moved
a
up.
good nurse.
Yeah,
a good nurse. Had a great reputation. And last week I talked to Jason Asick, who has been brought in from Cincinnati to be the acting president of Bellefonte Hospital, and he was very candid with me. They initially said September 30th, but he said there's a form they have to send me, county judge, state of Kentucky. And that's what he was calling me about. So we had a little discussion after that, but it's called a WARN report, W-A-R-N, and it lists that information that you have to give a 60 day.
Right.
And he also said that end of March, maybe 2 weeks into April, but people are getting jobs quickly, and obviously you can't keep operating a hospital if 200 of your nurses have already left. So they have already hired in excess of 200, and doctors groups, individual doctors, and anesthesiologists. I mean, there's a whole web you have to weave together, and then find places for them. I think most of them are very excited to be able to stay where they're at, where they've made their living, where their home is safe, great area to live in, raise a family, and King's Daughters will benefit greatly. Christy's got a heck of a job with her board to piece all this stuff together, but it's an exciting time in that regard, and there will be some jobs lost. However, you got SOMC, you have St. Mary's, you have Cabell. A lot of people drive into work here. Some people could go to St. Clair and Moorhead. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a lot of potentials, and health occupations, they're looking all the time.
Yep.
We,
at ARH here. They're looking for people in their hospitals.
There are outreach centers that are shorthanded and all that, and so I think the majority are going to land on their feet and continue to be able to live where they live.
And I think you're going to see from everything that I've heard from sources that I've talked to that you don't want to divulge, and I'm sure you've heard even more than I've heard. But there are things that's going to happen with that property. Some of the property where Bellefonte's at, too. I mean, there's other things that's going to happen that's going to create some jobs.
Yeah, sure. They anticipate some medical practices are going to...
And some of them are staying right there because they're not necessarily, even though they might be associated with OLBS.
They have their own practice.
They have their own practice.
That's correct. So the impact there isn't great, but if you're one losing your job, the impact's 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do pray for those people to make it some way. Those things... probably seeing, I don't know, and on the inside out there, and in fact, we didn't get any advance notice. Mm-hmm. We'd heard they were going to merge with King's Daughters. We heard Mercy was buying King's Daughters. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of these things. And I think a lot of discussions like that were going on.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just guessing on that one from rumors, but I think how quickly they made the decision shocked a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of this Warren report that I got kind of. Was more pointed towards less than 200 people that maybe they hadn't got the word to enough. I'm not really sure about that. It's just a guess, but it's very sad for the long-standing, wonderful hospital at Bellefonte, and fortunately, King's Daughters is such that it needed more nurses and can take more doctors and all that, and will still remain the regional medical center
absolutely.
we are.
One more question before I let you go, because we're sort of running out of time. But what about the situation down at AK Steel, possibly reopening the furnace down there for the pig iron? Is that look like that's going to happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked me. I did get a letter to chief management there at Cleveland Cliffs, and have also contacted their labor relations person and their media person, their communications person. The man of the furnace, so everybody knows, it may still be, but when it was put, it was the largest blast furnace in the world, and if you remember when the article was in a paper with Lawrence Goncalves, luckily I haven't talked to him on the phone yet to know how to pronounce his name, but it's easier to send him a letter. But he mentioned Amanda Furnace himself, and how important that is. So when I talked to the labor relations guy with that company, he's still talking about that they can't believe that AK didn't utilize it in some way. He said that's a monumental moneymaker in today's market, and that's one of the draws. So I'm still pretty excited, cautiously excited about this happening, but they're still talking about it. And I have let them know not only how welcoming this community will be, we will, as a city, do anything we can to, tax incentives, whatever we can do, which we did for AK, to help them, but also and emphasizing the unbelievable labor force we have here, and a whole lot of steel workers that would like nothing more to walk back in that plant.
Yeah.
So the day I took office, before I took office, I was meeting with the Steelworkers Union. I met with AK officials trying to save jobs at a place that raised me. Mm-hmm. And I'll continue to do that till my last day as mayor. And if we can get that going, it'll be the greatest thing that could happen while I was mayor.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming by.
Okay.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Appreciate
it. Thanks.
That's Mayor Steve Gilmore of the city of Ashland. His appearance here on the Breakfast Club brought to you by McMeans Farmers.